I just gave it permission to display the video, and now it's telling me the same things before.
That's okay. Go to Firefox and then go to preferences.
Okay, Firefox preferences, and it was in privacy and security. And it was, wasn't it? It was in permissions, camera settings. Nope, it's blank. The choice of is blank.
Wow.
I've always had problems with Firefox. So I mean, every time things mess up like this, they say Firefox isn't supported.
Do you have Google?
Yeah, I have Safari. I don't have Google. I don't have.
Oh, try it through Safari.
All right, so here goes. I'm gonna.
The address I gave you, put the address in the address box in Safari.
Yeah. Camera, FaceTime camera built in. FaceTime camera built in. FaceTime camera settings. FaceTime, we cannot display your video. Make sure your camera is shared in your browser and is not used in other applications. And then try again.
Close out on Firefox.
FaceTime camera. This is.
Hey, do you have Zoom open?
No. I have Facebook open, and but I don't have FaceTime. It says something about FaceTime camera, but I don't have FaceTime open.
Click on your Apple and then click on Force Quit.
Apple?
Yeah, up top. Oh, you have an Apple, right? You have a Mac, right?
Yeah.
Click on the Apple up top to top left, and then click on Force Quit.
Force Quit what? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of programs open. I have WebEx, I have Safari, I have QuickTime Player, I have Quicken, I have Messenger, I have Mail, I have Keychain Access, and I have Firefox, and I have Safari open, but I don't have FaceTime open.
All right, close out Firefox. And then what were the other ones you got? William? All right, well, we'll wait till he comes back in. So anyway, whew. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoyed the sun today. It was beautiful.
Absolutely. I didn't get out, unfortunately. I was in working all day.
I got out and I did some work.
Yeah. I should have gone at least just even to sit outside and work in the backyard for a bit, but no.
I was able to get some work in, cut some grass. So that was cool. This week was really a weird week for me. I think my weed whacker started acting up this week. So I had to put some money into getting a new one. Trying to make a little extra cash until I either get a heck of a lot of clients and can hire people and create a business, or a fellowship. So that's what I'm working on. How was your week, Terry? Miss Reynolds?
It was good.
It was quiet, somewhat busy, but good.
That's good.
Somewhat busy, but good.
All right.
You know, I still got a lot of things in the fire that I'm waiting on, you
Mhm.
know, and just anticipation right now, you know, things to come through.
All come through for you.
Hey, well.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it will. Yes, it will.
Hey, caller two, how you doing?
Oh, me? You talking to me?
Yes, caller two. You always caller two.
All right. Well, I remember I was 3 one day, one of those times. But anyway, I'm doing all right. This is Gary, and I'm yeah.
Jay, we had this conversation last week.
It's kind of like, remember that movie? Anyway, I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, yeah, so I'm
Groundhog
doing all
Day.
right. Yes, yeah. Yes, we're on the same wavelength here, which is a good thing. But anyway, I'm all right. I'm all right. I just want to say a shout to everyone out there. Who's out there? Who else is with us?
So
French leave here.
Good evening to you.
As well.
Yeah, and so it's a good Friday. It's a nice, yeah, had a good week. And yeah, it's been kind of a my spiritual journey is continuing. So,
Yep.
so I'm all right. I'm doing all right.
We see William.
Hello.
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 All right. Now I can continue with that scheduled,
This was an ordeal.
regular scheduled meeting. What I'm gonna ask everyone is when you're not speaking, please mute yourself so that those who wish to be seen can be seen. French, do you want to be? Do you want to get on camera tonight, or do you wish not to be on camera?
Wish not to be on camera.
Dag, I was hoping you was gonna say something else. All right.
I'm sorry to disappoint.
That's all right. I'm just teasing. That's good. Hey, Jerry, I apologize for cutting you off. I had been working with Will to get on, and he's on. So I apologize for cutting you off there, bro.
Apology accepted.
Thank you. Normally he doesn't accept my apologies, but I'm glad he did. He must be in a really good mood.
Well, again, I'm on a spiritual, my spiritual journey is continuing, so I'm evolving.
Something tells me I'm glad I didn't know you when we were younger. Were you a bully when you was
Probably.
Were you a bully when you was younger, Jerry? Were you a bully?
No, I wasn't, but my friends were.
So you was the instigator.
You were the
No.
bully.
No, I wasn't. My friends were. So I was kind of like under there. I was protected in that sense, But
I mean, I can't be mad at you, bro. You know what I'm saying? You gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? I can't be mad at you, but I am glad you're allowing me to be on your side at this junction in time in our lives. So thank you for that.
So when did you become a bully? At your point, at what point in life did you start becoming like a bully?
So let me get with the weather. Let me do that, and I'll come. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the sun today.
Yeah, it was a real privilege. The weather was beautiful.
Nice. Where I'm at
It was
today
close, right?
was It was what was the high today? It's not giving me the high.
75, wasn't it?
It's not giving it to
Did it
me.
get that high?
But it does say that some clouds this evening will give way to mainly clear skies overnight. Slight chance of rain, showers, low near 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Humidity 54%. UV index 010. Moonrise 7:13 a.m. Waxing crescent. Moonset 11:01 p.m. Saturday is going to be partly cloudy, high 77 Fahrenheit, winds west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday night, 49 degrees, considerable cloudiness, low 49 degrees Fahrenheit, winds west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Humidity 30% in the morning, UV 8 of 10, sunrise 5:29 a.m., sunset at 8:05 p.m. Considerable cloudiness, low 49, winds west at 5 to 10 p.m., 10 miles per hour at night. Humidity 63 degrees. UV index 010. Moonrise 7:58 a.m. Moonset 11:54 p.m. Waxing crescent. And on Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, a spate of shower, a thunderstorm is possible. High around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds west at 10 to 15 miles per hour. At night is 47 degrees. Few clouds from time to time, low 47 degrees Fahrenheit, winds west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Humidity during the day is 42%, UV index 7 to 10. Sunrise 5:28 a.m., sunset 8:06 p.m. Humidity in the evening is 78%, UV index 010. Moonrise 8:50 a.m. with the moon set. It's not listed. Waxing crescent. There is your weather.
So I just want.
There is
I'm
your
sorry.
weather. From weather.com. It's been my privilege to let you know what's going on with the weather.
Can I make a comment?
Sure. What's your comment there, buddy?
So the weather that you just read is not really relevant to all of your listeners. I mean, you have a wide geographical audience. So the weather you read was for the East Coast, I presume?
For our area, yes. I think most people are aware of that, and they'll go to weather.com and look up for their area. It's just the entertainment aspect of the show. Any other questions there, sir?
Okay. No, I'm straight. I'm good.
All right, good, because I do this every week. Thank you. Just want to make sure it's to you like it. All right. I want. Yo, I love Poetic Recovery. And as you guys may have noticed, I'm also calling it cultural exchange because we love diversity. But I have a topic before we get into any poetry, before we get into the interview. We got 17 minutes left before the interview starts. I want to bring up the conflict in the Middle East. I want to see where we all stand on that. Hopefully, we can still be friends by the time we leave. If not, you suck. No, I'm just kidding. But hopefully, we can still be friends when we leave. And if there's any frustrations, we can continue the conversation. But this conflict in the Middle East has been going on for years. From my understanding, Britain, there was a couple different areas that Britain split up. India, they created India and Pakistan. They also created, took Palestine, and after World War II, what was it, the Ottoman Empire? And they decided that they was going to use that area to create space for Israel and Palestine and establish a government, in which that government was created in 1949. Since then, they have been pushing people out of that area of Palestine through murder, through whatever means necessary. And today we have a lot of fighting going on in the area with the United States. And the reason why this should be important to us, because our country, the United States of America, has been giving aid to Israel for years in the sum of like 20s of billions of dollars every year for their military expenditures, while we have so many people that are homeless, can't afford to eat right here in the United States of America. And so I'd like to hear what everybody's ideas and thoughts are on this issue. And if you'd like to remain silent, that's cool. But yeah, let's go, Terry. Chime in.
Did you say Terry?
I said Terry, not Jerry.
Okay, that's what I
Yes,
thought.
I'm going to remain silent because I'm not versed. I mean, I hear of everything going on and I'm aware, but I don't think I'm that versed to talk about it.
You know, I hear you, but I encourage people to, in the very least, I'm gonna encourage you to do more research on the issue. Go back to the beginning, because sometimes people start in the middle, and they'll start where the Palestinians sent a rocket in defense of so many, atrocities, right? And I'm not saying whether they're right or wrong, but then they pick the side of Israel. But after so many people have been starved, pushed out of their homes and stuff, like, what do? You know what I'm saying, when that's happened and the world's against you? I mean, I would hate to be in that situation, but
Right.
please research, because as American citizens, we need to do something. As Black people who are sick and tired of being murdered in the streets by the police, right?
Right.
We need to do something. We need to encourage action on the side of our political representative to at least not support violent action. So that's what I think. Anyway, Jerry, what do you think about the topic? I actually said Jerry this time, Jerry. Jerry with the Jerry, you there? French leave?
Yes, I'm here. So,
Right.
so I'm kind of confused. It's kind of confusing to me. I know that it started. What's happening right now started when when Israelis they stormed the mosque, the Al Aqsa mosque.
Yes, during
And so
Ramadan.
So what I'm kind of confused about is that piece of land, that piece of real estate, is one of the holiest sites to like 3 religions, and that mosque, from what I understand, is what the Israelis call the Temple Mount, which is one of their holiest sites for that religion. So yeah, it seems like it's just it's a powder keg, But at any rate, my sense is that the Palestinians, as you mentioned, they were displaced after World War II to create the state of Israel, and so they had occupied that land, that area, for like I think something like 4,000 years. And so I'm equating what's happening there with our native population, the Native Americans, who occupied this land for thousands of years and were displaced and kind of like pacified, I guess is the best word I can think of. So yeah, what we're seeing now in the Middle East happen here, and we are basically beneficiaries of a process by which people's land was taken and they were just basically given, pushed out. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of confused. It's kind of like emotionally, I don't really know how to process it basically, you know. And I don't know if there's going to be an end to it. You know, it's been going on for quite a while, since 1967, I believe, which is when
It actually
Israel.
it's actually been going on before then.
You're talking about going back to 1948 when Israel was established.
Before then, after the Ottoman Empire back in the 1920s, they decided back then that they was going to use that area to establish land there for yeah, for the Jewish people.
So, like, correct me if I'm wrong. The that time frame, like 1920s, that was aftermath of World War One, and I believe that's when Iran was set up, right? The Shah of Iran. That's when he was put into power. So yeah, it's again, I'm still kind of, I don't really know how to process, you know, that whole thing, but that whole area, I mean, it's like, I don't know, you know, I don't know.
Well, I think it's great that you have some awareness of the issue, and we need to continue becoming aware so we can take action. But
Now, what
yeah.
do you mean when you say? What do you mean by that when you say that?
So what I mean is that we need to take political action. We need to get people in office who are going to, at this point in time, it's. I mean, so when you look at the fact that, like, in the 1920s, 30s, they were already preparing that land to be occupied, right? And now it's 2021, right? I look at, you know, what are the Palestinians saying? Are they willing to share the land? Or are they not, right? Because they were forced in that position, and it was wrong. Some people just look at it as, well, what were we supposed to do with the Jews? They had to go somewhere. It's like, why not go back home? You know what I'm saying? Rather than displacing people from their homes to house someone else, right? I want to say that what happened to the Jews was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. What Hitler did was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. But one wrong does not give cause to create another atrocity. You know what I'm saying? Not at all. Hold on, Bill. You're muted, William. And so that's like saying, it's like giving okay for black people to go and start attacking white people and taking their homes, right? I don't think any U.S. citizen would okay that for black people, and I don't think we should okay that for Israel as well. You know what I mean? And so we need to try to find out what a reasonable solution is at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, and I think it's on us as the U.S. citizens to listen to the Palestinian people, do research, and understand that, because it's our tax money that's going and supporting the hostilities in that region. What were you going to say, Will?
Well, I'm saying that Jews and Arabs coexisted in that strip of land for centuries.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it was in more recent times when the Jews from Europe, not the Jews from that area, the Jews,
Right.
as I said, the Jews in that area had been coexisting just fine with Arabs for centuries and centuries. It was the Jews that were expelled from Europe because of the concentration camps, the German concentration camps. And they were expelled, and they were actually expelled, and they were homeless. And remember, they were all on this boat, and the boat went around the world trying to dock, and no country would let them in. Did you see that famous movie Exodus, where there were several? It was just a story of this one steamliner, steamship that was filled to the brim with Jews that were expelled from the war in Central Europe, because Central Europe was destroyed. And there were several of these boats. But anyway, this particular boat was refused entry. It was refused entry to the United States. And then it went across the ocean back. And the United Nations that had just begun in that time period, United Nations had to resolve this problem of this boatloads of expelled Jews, homeless Jews. So what it did was it decided that since there were Jews and Arabs had been living in this strip of land, that's where they would go, and that they would all go to this strip of land where there were already Jews that had been living there for many centuries. Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but it wasn't. These were people that were completely different. These were Europeans. These weren't Arab Jew. I mean, these weren't Middle Eastern Jews. These was Jews with a different language, with a different culture, with a different everything, and they were plopped right on top of these people who were already there. And the people who were living there didn't like the idea that these foreigners were just dropped right on top of them by the United Nations. I'm talking about 1948. So I mean that's where the resentment started and the strife started. So it was, I mean, it was a bad idea. And then all these Arab countries tried to force them out in 1967 in this war. Egypt and Jordan and they all got together with their huge armies, and they tried to drive off the newcomers, so to speak. But the newcomers apparently beat them. I mean, that was the story of the 1967 war. That this handful of ragtag Jews, that they beat them. They fended off these enormous armies from like 5 or 6 countries that were sent there to kick them off the land. So that kind of cemented them there. So now they sought the rest of the world. They got the sympathy because of it was such a romantic thing that it was like David and Goliath, right? It was all biblical. It was like this biblical war. I mean, you should go back and take a look at what happened during that war, and how this handful of, I mean, not handful, I mean, there were several 100,000 of them, I guess. They fought off these combined armies of like Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. I forget what other countries. There were several, like 4 or 5 major armies, airplanes and tanks and stuff. Well, they fought them off, and in the process, they got the sympathy of the world. And well, the consequences of that war were that the war never ended. The strife kept, and the strife was ongoing, and it's that war really never ended. The Palestinians, well, what happened was that they formed the Israelis formed a secular government. It was military because while they were fighting, and they got all the Jews in the United States, which were a big, powerful politically group here, got the government to send them lots of money, and they built up their army and they built up their people, and then what happened was that that original group of people started to make more. So they started to grow in population. and they stopped coexisting. They just turned into they just didn't get along with the people who had already been there. And they started taking more land and more land and more land. They started taking land that was adjoining, that wasn't even in the original land that was ceded to them, that was given to them. They took the Gaza Strip, which was adjacent to it, and they became a huge force to be reckoned with. And the struggle has continued. And they've been on this survival thing, that they're on this constant 24/7 hair trigger to be eliminated. And that's the fear. Their fear is that they will be eliminated, and that they have to fight it on their own against everybody, you know. And uh, that kind of attitude has blinded them to the fact that there were Palestinians there before. And then they eventually, this was 70 years ago, 65, 70 years ago. Time passed, and they became just another oppressive force. And now what you have is the worst of the worst. You've got this far right wing, really nasty. I mean, a lot of the earlier administrations in Europe tried very hard to make peace with the neighbors, and that didn't work. They just weren't able to do it. I mean, there was too much damage done already. But the current administration with Netanyahu, he's a real tough son of a bitch, and he doesn't want to make peace at all with anybody. He just wants to just wipe the Palestinians off the face of the earth. So it's a situation that just goes from bad to worse, to worse, to worse, to worse. And this is just the latest thing. And I don't know, they'll probably end when every last one of them kills each other off. I mean, it's every last Palestinian and every last Arab and every last Jew will eventually, die fighting. I don't know. They're just, after 70 years,
I think
you've got to have the hope. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you. Well, I mean, that's a wealth of information. I appreciate that, and I love the fact that, like, you presented in a way where it wasn't taking sides, where you just gave the information. I love that, and I want to thank you for that. My question is because it's a complicated issue at this point in time. What do you
Can I
think?
just add something to that?
What do you hold on for a second, Jerry?
All right.
Thank you. Will, being you're the elder in the group at this point in time, and you've lived through a lot of this. What do you think our role should be as U.S. citizens to impress upon the United States government?
Well, I think it's the attitude of the U.S. government right now at this moment in time is different from what it was up to now. What it was up to now was complete and utter and unquestioning support for Israel.
Right.
And it was just completely showering and drowning Israel with support and with money and with arms and with political support. But that was all the way up through the Trump administration. And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting that during the Trump administration.
Different now. I mean, I've noticed that there's a difference in this new administration, in that there's been a break. If you follow the current events, that the current administration is not so ready to jump to Israel's defense on this. There's and that is because this new administration is remarkably more left leaning than it ever was. That's not saying a lot, but I mean, compared to what it's been up to now, this is probably the most left wing. With people like Bernie and Alexandra Cortez actually having been given so much influence in this new administration. Um, I'm seeing that this new administration has a different attitude, a more either balanced or more pro-Palestinian than I've ever seen before.
Yeah, I was reading this article today that was saying Biden followed pro-Israel U.S. precedent, but new critics shake the status quo.
And you know what it is? It's because Netanyahu has become so unpopular in the United States for his evil cruelty. Plus the fact that he's under all kinds of indictments for corruption.
Yeah.
Have you heard that? He has his government is in chaos because none of the it's a different kind of system where you can win the election, but you've got to form a government which, because of all the it isn't like we have a two-party system. They have like a 10-party system. And
many countries do.
Right. So and they haven't been able to get because Netanyahu smells to high heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a new attitude now towards him, and by reflection, towards the government, that the government is evil, that it's cruel, that it's self-dealing, that it's corrupt. That right all of a sudden it's becoming harder for the United States to jump to its defense, especially when there's so many women and children and mosques being destroyed. I mean, it's really bad press. It looks horrible. And before they could say, well, Israel is a great ally of the United States. Well, they can't really say that anymore. They don't want them as an ally because he's so corrupt and so so that it's a different day right now than it's been up to now.
Let me chime into French and see if French has anything she wants to say on the subject. French, you there? And then, Will, we're going to get started with your interview in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Jerry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, so yeah, you have mentioned something that I think is really is at the core of what's happening over there today. You use the terms like biblical. And yeah, and so again, that region, particularly that specific piece of real estate that that kicked everything off in this skirmish, that land has always been contested. And so, what's happening over there is centuries old stuff, and the other piece to this that's not really in play right now, but there's three religions. I mean, there's Christians, Jews, and Muslims that spot is among the most holy pieces of land, And so I just wanted to just quickly say, so it goes back to the Crusades when the European armies marched to that same area to kind of displace, to kind of ward off the rise of the Islamic religion. But anyway, all I'm saying is that it's so complex and intertwined that it's hard for me to really understand. But I do know for a fact that Saudi Arabia plays a part in that. Saudi Arabia and Israel are two of the United States' biggest allies in that area, for different reasons. But Yeah, all I can do is I pray, I pray that at some point, something will happen, and I don't know what.
Well,
But
we can't just pray, man. We gotta take action. We have to vote. We have to understand the issue, um, and we have to listen to what the Palestinian people are asking for, as well as the original Arabs in that area, the offsprings of the original Arabs in that area. What are they asking for? And yeah, I mean, we have to keep in mind that those that were born in the last 20 years didn't ask to be born there, right? They were stuck in like a situation, you know. But we have to do something as United States citizens you know, uh, to really force some action on the U.S. to calm this situation down. So yeah.
Well, I
yeah,
think
just briefly, historically, there's only
I,
one
I,
country that has ever
I want to move
that
from
has
this
ever
because
rejected.
we have to. I'm sorry, Jerry, and I know this is an explosive conversation, but we have to move to the interview. We're already over 10 minutes behind. So we can come back to this next week and revisit this conversation. And but thank you all very much for engaging in this conversation. It's really important. We can't just close our eyes and turn our backs, especially those who um, come from people who have been oppressed. Puerto Rico, um, Jewish people have been oppressed. Um, Anyone here with African blood, come from people who have experienced oppression. We can't just pretend that's going to fix itself. We need to get involved as citizens. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to impress upon you all to make sure you're voting, to ensure that you're calling congressmen, senators, and encouraging them to take action to, in the very least, get the U.S. to stop funding Israel and where it would use that funds to just oppress the Palestinian people. So with that, William.
Yep.
William. Welcome to Poetic Recovery. I want to thank you for being here this evening. From what I know of William is a very kind, generous, intelligent, loving individual. One of the things I love about William is that he won't just say, I'm right. He'll say, okay, let me look that up. Let me go back and let me research that. Let me figure this out. And that's what I love about William. He's a luthier, and I'm gonna tell you a funny story about that, right? When I first met him, or not when I first met him, when I got to go to his office and we was talking about what he did, he said, I'm a luthier. I was like, so what do you call this? He said, well, I'm a luthier. And I was like, so how long have you been practicing a religion or something like that? He's like, I'm not a Luther. I'm a Luther. I'm not a Lutheran. I'm a luthier.
Not a Lutheran.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that conversation?
I was a Lutheran. I'm a luthier.
And I was like, well, wait, hold up. A what? He's like, a luthier. I was like, what is that? He was like, oh, I make guitars, and I was like, wow. All right, that's what that is, and so I've gotten the chance to go in and help clean the machines and things like that, and learn, a bit about, woodworking through William. And one of the things that I learned about William was there's an instrument called a T-play. I don't have one with me. Do you have one around, Will? A T-play?
I no, not within reach, really. No, I don't.
I'm gonna look up I'm gonna look up one. But anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, William. The T-play was going into extinction. Is that correct?
Yep.
And William single-handedly,
Well,
well, I mean,
almost single-handedly. There was a
well, the support of um, individuals, help bring it back to from the brink of extinction. Um, and the incredible thing about that, working with people extraordinary people who've been involved in movements and stuff like that, and um, were willing to, help fund, these cultural programs, and so William has done a lot to educate youth around music and culture, so that, especially in Latino communities, so that, they can have their culture and have an understanding culture empowered, them being empowered. Chicago is one of the areas, Hartford's another of the areas around here in Western Mass, which really made an impact. And so, William, I am honored to have you as my guest tonight. So welcome to Poetic Recovery.
Honored to be here. Very pleased to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Matt, I want to say that French Leave is on tonight. And French Leave is a very, very busy person. She's working on some great work. Everyone here is very busy. And so, French just took tonight off just to hear you. And so I wanted to say that you do have, someone, here who's really wants to hear what you have to say. So I just had to say that. Because I know a little bit about your history, so I'm going to try to ask questions that doesn't reveal that I know, but what got you into music, into fixing musical instruments? What started this journey?
Well, gee, I was brought up in a place where there was a lot of music. And I was born in Puerto Rico. And I was always fascinated with music. I mean, certainly like so many other people. But my entry into music was really through my work. That I deal with musicians every day, or I have been. I've been on hiatus like everybody else has been on vacation, so to speak, for a year or so. But I'm slowly coming back to my shop now that things are not quite as hot as they used to be. But I chose this kind of unusual uh, profession because it brings out the best in everybody. It just is a profession where just people are just at their best somehow in it. People are just striving for beauty. They're striving to prove themselves. They're people who are trying to get the better part of themselves out. It's an environment which really people enter, and it just brings out the best in everybody, as opposed to say finance or or politics, or commerce. Sometimes commerce can be very, very alienating. But this is the opposite. This is very, people come into my shop and they're just amazed. They look around and they just break out a smile, when they see all the instruments and they hear the sounds. So it's an environment that I feel really privileged to be in, and I certainly I gravitated towards that when it became evident that I could create such an environment for myself, and that's what's kept me here for well, going on 50 years. I've been a professional instrument maker for 50 years now. And I will till the end, till the day I die. I mean, I can't imagine retiring from this because, you know, my whole identity is wrapped up so much in what I do. You know, I that's what I am. You know, some people, their identity is what they do on the weekends, and then
Right.
somehow during the rest of the week they do something else for out of
But
necessity.
this is you all day long.
Yeah, well, this is me. I'm trying to always become better. I'm trying to learn more about it all the time. I'm trying to become excellent at what I do.
What,
Uh, so it's yeah, I would recommend it to I would recommend this to anybody and everybody. I mean, you were in the shop for a couple of weeks, weren't you?
yeah, I took a tea play shop. I actually made a tea play.
You made it,
By
T-Play.
the way, in behind me, this graphic right here is a graphic of a tea play. Right? That's a tea play, correct?
Okay, well, that is true. That is a T-Play, but it's not the kind of T-Play that we make here. That is actually, believe it or not, that's called a tipple, and that is the American version of an Argentinian instrument called a tiple.
Wow. See,
That,
I never.
that particular thing that you have on your background.
Yeah.
If you search to find that background, you search for tiple, Tiple. That's probably what came up. But if you put Puerto Rican tiple, you'll see that it's quite a different thing. I mean, it's quite dramatically different. Um,
Ah.
I don't have a picture of it where I can show you. But anyway, going back to what it means to be a luthier on a daily basis. You were a luthier for 2 weeks, and what were your impressions of being there? I know you were kind of smiling all the time, as I recall.
Well,
You had a good time, didn't you?
before I get on, before I go there
Uh,
and talk about my
I,
experiences,
right.
I want to get more
Yeah, I'm
information.
interviewing you, right?
Yeah, I want to get some more information in about you so people can really get to know you. Um, what issues are really important to you?
Issues. Uh,
Yes, social, political issues,
a culture.
environment.
Culture is a big deal with me.
Why culture?
Well, I came from a country that had its culture covered up by a dominant culture that came and took over 125, 130 years ago. Which and my country is a colony right now, and it's probably the last colony. And there's no question that it's a colony in every sense. You know, the word colony isn't used anymore, but it is a colony. There's no question of that. And
Absolutely.
for 400 years before that, it was the colony of another big monster, huge dominant culture. It was Spain.
Spain, yeah, Spain.
So so I'm sensitive to the fact that the people created their own culture, and it was a treasure. What they created was a treasure, and it was pushed down. It was eclipsed. It was covered up for all this time. And what I do is culture. You know, music is culture. Craft is culture. Things are done in a traditional way. Music is done according to traditional, you know, the language of music is something which is a traditional thing. The steps that I follow in making an instrument is a cultural process. The guitar is
Well,
a cultural artifact. I mean, it's okay. That's my wife.
before you go into talking about specific instruments, I want to ask a question real quick.
Sure.
How many different instruments do you make?
Okay, well, I'm a special. You said a luthier makes guitars. No, a luthier is a maker of any string instrument. So that's kind of a broad, generic term. You know, more specifically, I'm a professional guitar. I'm a professional guitar maker. But the same skills that I have developed to be able to make a guitar is a skill that allows me to make any of maybe 300 or 400 different instruments around the world, and those are instruments that have those little bars across the fingerboard, those little metal um, things that you press,
Right.
right? And that are plucked with your fingers. So in other words, I'm a maker of fretted, plucked string instruments, of which the guitar is only one. But you've got the banjo, you've got the mandolin, you've got the tiple, you've got all the ones in Mexico, all the jaranas, and all the bajos, and all, you know, it's all over the world. There are guitar-like instruments which are different from each other. They're just the same in that they have strings stretched over a sound box with an arm that sticks out, and there are these little metal bars. And you say, well, what is this? These metal bars make it a category. It says, well, that's because there's a whole other category of string instruments which is totally different. Like, you know, we're from Jupiter, and the other category, they're from Mars, and those are the bowed instruments. Those are the instruments that don't have those little metal bars on the neck, but they're played instead with the fingers. They're played with a bow, you know, like a violin. And that's a whole other planet. That's a whole other universe. So I could make all the instruments in my universe, but I don't know how to make any violins or anything like that. That's a whole other universe. So mandolins and banjos and cuatros and tiples and tres and the charangos in South America, and jaranas in Mexico, and bajos in Mexico, and all those are my field, is my field, which are fretted instruments rather than bowed instruments.
So which of the instruments was the hardest for you to learn how to make, and why?
Well, you know, actually the cuatro, I mean, if by hard you mean it takes the most labor to make it, most effort.
Well, no. So which instrument, by hard, I mean, what instrument took everything for you to learn how to make that was so frustrating? You're like, I just can't get this right. I'm gonna, I got to do it. Made you look up, how somebody else did this, so on and so forth. What
Yes.
instrument did that for you?
Well, I look at it slightly differently. They're all made more or less the same, but they're all the level of complexity, the number of parts and the number of things that have to fit in difficult ways together. They're all different from instrument to instrument. So I mean, it's not a matter of one is more challenging than the other. I would say one is more time consuming than others. And that's what I mean by when you say difficult, it's
Mhm.
just that it takes more time and more effort to make some, and some take very little time relatively. Like
So
I look at people,
which one takes the most time,
well,
and which one takes the least time?
well, I believe the quattro. Have you seen the quattro with all its little corners and stuff?
Yes.
All the little corners that they have, and it has these funny little curlicues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it has lots of strings. It's got 10 strings. You know, guitar has 6 strings. uh, that's 25% more effort in adjusting each one and making each one just right and fit. It has to be sitting just right on the instrument, and if it's too close, it rattles, and if it's too far off, too far away from the instrument, it's hard to play. So it has to be just right. So it just you got to fuss much more on these quattros, these Puerto Rican quattros. Um, so I mean that people are amazed. They think that just because the guitar is bigger, they must be more difficult, but it's not. It's more time consuming and more takes more effort and time to
And
make
which one was the simplest?
the tea
Oh,
play. The
the
tea,
T.
yeah,
Okay.
the tea play you make. Well, the tea play was simple enough to take somebody like you who you haven't done much woodworking, you've never been into a shop before. You came up with a just really fine little real authentic musical instrument in what, a week and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's because it's really rudimentary. It's really fundamental.
And
It,
I really enjoyed spending the time with the students that you brought together in that class.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
We had a blast. I remember that. Well, that's it. I teach tea play making as a kind of a side extracurricular activity to my guitar making. That's because I've been making guitars for so long that I could get stir crazy. I could get cabin fever. You know what I mean? And I needed to do something else that was different. And I found that teaching was a good balance. Um, and I found that it takes a different kind of skill to teach than to make guitars. It's kind of like you're crafting somebody. You're crafting somebody's skill, ability. So it's more or less the same thing, but it's different. And I found I was good at it. People always are. I end up with all these people making instruments. I mean that's hard. That's a challenge.
Mhm.
So I
Mm.
kept doing it. And I've been doing it in Chicago. There's a church in Chicago that invites me up to there, and before COVID, for the last 15 years, every year for 15 years, they invited me, took me up to Chicago, and they in the backyard of the church, they had a tent with little tools, and these community folks, they organize everything. They fly me there, they fly me back, they feed me, they house me for 2 weeks. And it was a big deal. They actually ended up, there were so many tea players in Chicago that they started an orchestra. And there's a tea play orchestra in Chicago, and they've been
That's
on
awesome.
television. They've been on television. They've traveled around the country. So I kind of left that thing behind me. But they want to, well, what I've been doing right now is trying to design a virtual tea play workshop for them. That's what I spent some time this last year, was designing this thing that they could do, on Zoom.
Speaking of which, you've written books, haven't you?
I've wrote one book. I've written two books in collaboration with other people.
And so, what was the book? What was your solo book about?
Okay. Well, no, I haven't made a solo book yet.
Okay.
My main book, uh, it was the guitar making book, which is kind of like a standard textbook in the field now. It's pretty.
Now that book was created so that the average person like myself could read it and
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if you need to have a workspace and you need to have a table, then you have to make an investment in tools. But with the book, and the materials, I've people have been making guitars from my book since 1985, which is when it was first published,
wow.
and it's been in print since 1985. So I'll
21 years, ain't it?
find it.
Sweet.
This is the paperback version. It was hardcover for a long time. Then
Oh no, how long did it take you? How long did it take you all to write that book?
to produce it, to produce the book, to create it?
Yes,
Is that what you're asking?
yes.
Well, it took a whole summer to make the two guitars that I described in the book, the classical guitar and a steel string, because you actually can make two different kind of guitars from that book.
Okay.
And my partner made one and I made the other. We were partners at that time. 85, my God, that's almost 30 years ago. Frightening.
Oh my lord, that is like 30.
I know. Anyway, um, it took a year to write the manuscript and to
6
get
years ago.
published, and a year to make the guitars I mean, a whole summer to make the guitars, which every step was photographed.
Mhm.
And you can see in the book, you find a likely page.
Oh wow.
See it putting on.
So what do we look? So what are we looking here? What are we looking at in that picture? I see that there's a fretboard, right?
That's right.
There's-
That one is shaping the end of the fretboard. You see that dark bar of wood there with
Yeah,
little slots. I don't know if you can see the slots.
I
And,
can see.
right, and the end of it is curved so that it matches up to the sound hole. And you have to draw the little curve so you can cut it so that it matches the circle of the sound hole.
So now that circle is the sound hole.
The sound hole, right.
So for those who are curious as how the sound hole works, how does it work?
Okay, well, that's a whole other field, which is the acoustic, the whole thing of acoustics and the science of sound, which I got into. You know, I figured I kind of hit a wall uh, that I couldn't get past that wall without really understanding what's going on in this little singing box, you know,
In this hole.
this little singing cabinet. And man, we could have a whole interview on that because you know it's pretty complicated. What the string? It starts with the string, the stretch string, and this a stretch string is probably the simplest thing that you could imagine. You know, just stretch a string between 2 points and you pull it tight. And if it's just a plain cotton string, you know, you can actually pull it a little longer. You know, it can stretch it a little bit. Um, but when you're stretching it, you're charging it up with potential energy. It's like a little battery, which when you let it go and it springs back, that battery is that energy is released. Okay, so this is what happens: is that you put this cord or string, and it could be anything. It could be a you know, it could be a strip of leather. It could be um, anything which is like a fiber which has the strength enough to be stretched without breaking, and which is uniform. That's the magic of the string, is the fact that it's the same. If it has lumps, it doesn't work as a musical string. It's got to be really even, uniform. So you take this thing and you stretch it. When you tighten up the knobs on the guitar, the strings are under tension. So what you have is this charged up energy thing that's got all these charged up energy things, and this energy is released when you pluck it, and it gets it moving. So you transform the potential energy, which is like, you know, a battery has potential energy, and you release it by plucking it or striking the string, and it changes it to a different kind of energy. Now it's kinetic energy, which is energy that's moving. So you put this on a hollow box. Okay, you couple it. You couple the vibrating ends to this box, which is made, and you couple that shaking, that vibration, and make the box vibrate now. So you've transferred the energy in the string to the box. All right. So now the box is shaking in a similar manner to that string. And when you put your ear up to the string, you really don't hear anything. What is it that you hear? What is that shaking? That shaking is a musical tone. What happens when you stretch a string is that you create not just a random noise. You know, random noise is made up of lots of different sounds which are at random. But the kind of sound that a stretched string, a uniform elastic string, the sound that it makes when you pluck it is a very ordered, has great order to it. It has pulses which are very even, and there are pulses overlapping other pulses because that string is wobbling in all kinds of different ways. And you hear a musical sound. Your ear wants to hear that sound because it's these collection of ordered sounds. It's like a chorus. That's what it is. And when you hear a trumpet, you hear a collection of ordered sounds, all sounding at once. You hear a piano. And that's what a string does. The magic of it is it creates a musical sound, a sound that isn't like a random noise. It isn't, you know, you've got random, of all the possible sounds in the universe, you've got noise, and then you have a musical sound, which is the ear responds to and prefers and wants to hear more. It goes towards it. It creates some kind of peace or some kind of pleasure. And it's just a stretched string. I mean, it's like magic, right?
I would love to do a Patreon video with you and share the proceeds with you, but do an in-depth workshop on acoustics for those who want to learn more. But I have a question for you. Who's one of the most famous artists?
Can I, by the way, finish?
Oh yeah.
String?
Apologize.
There's just one or two more steps which are important. You kind of ended it there. Now we've got this box that is vibrating like the string is vibrating. I mean, the string is coupled, so the box is vibrating in a similar manner to the string. Now the string is creating this musical sounds, but you can't hear it. Why? Because sound is disturbance in air. It's these pulses of air that's like waves of air that's the atoms and the molecules of air are compressed and then they're rarefied and compressed and rarefied. And they actually, this is energy that travels from the source and hits your ear and makes your eardrum shake the same way the string is shaking. You see, you set the string shaking, it sets the sound box, but the string doesn't make enough disturbance in the air. Now you couple it to something which is larger, and that makes a bigger effect on the air that surrounds it, and that it starts the air shaking in the same way that the string shakes. So the air now is making the musical sound, which it's hitting your eardrum. Your eardrum is shaking in the way the string is moving. It all gets coupled all the way, all those steps coupled to your ear. And then your brain picks up that shaking and it's music. It creates pleasure. And whoever makes a trumpet or makes other types of instruments, it's really basically the same thing. So that's the end of the loop from the string to the ear. You know, we stopped before we got to the ear, but that's how it works.
Wow, that's very in depth.
Well, it's a shortcut. It's deep, but it's also very short.
Um, I have a I you are filled with the wealth of knowledge and information.
I've
Where do
been
you find the time?
Huh?
Where do you find the time to um
Well, I've been doing the same thing, the same activity for 50 years now, 55 years. And you just do, you follow your passion for 55 years and you pick up some knowledge, especially if you're receptive, and you search it out. If you search stuff out for 50 years, you end up with just knowing stuff,
mhm.
especially if you enjoyed learning stuff, if that in itself gives you pleasure, to understand more of your environment, what's going on in the world.
Have you
The right,
have you
there's it's like a world of they call it the world of the mind.
Mhm.
There's a world of things, but there's also a world of the mind, uh, where you're developing your knowledge only because it's makes you better. It just makes you more human somehow. It also works for you. It brings all kinds of benefits. Not only that, but kind of a satisfaction.
you mentioned that you this church in Chicago was bringing you for 15 years. Have you noticed the same people coming back year after year?
Yeah, several. I've made some real long-term friends.
And
Um,
have they spoken to you about how your class impacted their life? And what did they say?
well, the orchestra that they formed was a big thing. The church, that whole tea play thing, that tea play workshop, community tea play workshop, has kind of taken a life of its own. Um, the church now has teamed up with the city of Chicago and its vocational school system. And now the vocational school system, they're getting the support instead of getting it from, charging $100 for each one of the students.
Right.
Now it's being offered, as with the support of the Chicago vocational school system. So I mean, it's really kind of taken out a life of its own. Um, and it's got a board, and it's got people that are working on it all the time. And the churches, some of the people from the church are on the board. It's become a kind of an institution. Um,
So essentially right now I'm interviewing a living legend.
no,
Ah, come on.
come on.
Yes,
You're
absolutely. And let me ask you this.
embarrassing me now. I'm not a legend.
Man, anyone who can help bring an instrument back from extinction and that work lead to um, the creation of an orchestra, in my mind, is a legend. So I'm gonna keep that. I'm
Well,
gonna claim that.
I'll accept that from in the spirit that it was made.
Thank
But
you.
thank you for saying nice things like that about me.
My question to you is this: what well-known artist has an instrument that you help work on?
Okay, I have, not too many. There are luthiers. I'm not the best luthier in the world and the most famous luthier in the world by a long shot. I am just a luthier. Um, and I've chosen to design my own world in a very particular way. I haven't designed it striving to become a celebrity, a luthier of the stars. But I have a couple of stars who have ended up with my instruments. Um, the great majority of my instruments are owned by serious musicians, that people who make their lives as musicians, working musicians. And that's what I've always seen myself as, is like a tool maker, somebody who's making a tool, like, and a tool, and that's what a guitar is. It's really a tool for a creative person to be able to express themselves. It's like a tool, like a screwdriver or a hammer or something. It's like a tool, or if you work with digital, all kinds of digital machines. Well, a guitar is a analog is an analog mixer or an analog machine. So I see myself not as, as more like a tool maker, somebody making tools for musicians, and not somebody who is superstar, who's jet setting with Sting and with all the great stars. But I mean, people always want to know if I've made guitars for people that they would recognize. And yeah, I've made guitars work for, among my clients are Arlo Guthrie and a lot of jazz musicians. I mean, if you're into jazz, you know John Abercrombie, who played with Ralph Towner and Jaco Pastorius. Among my customers is Todd Rundgren. You may have heard of Todd Rundgren.
I haven't, but I'm gonna look them up right now.
TODD RUND GREN. And he's a famous rocker from earlier time. Todd Rundgren.
Oh yeah.
John Abercrombie was a very well-known jazz guitarist. In the classical field, classical music, what's his name? Hey, that's what happens when you're 76 years old. You forget the name of one of the top classical players in the century. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it.
Yeah, that happens to me, and I'm 47. So
Um,
I guess
Elliot
when I get your age, I'm not gonna remember anything.
Elliot Fisk. Elliot Fisk. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, yeah. So I mean, the different types of guitars I make, you'll probably find one or two people who are real knowledgeable in that field of music will know who they are.
right, right.
Um, your field is rap, and not many rap people play guitars. So I mean, um,
No, but I do spoken word, and there are some spoken word artists that play guitar.
oh yeah, who's that? Who are you
Uh,
thinking of?
um, oh, they're not famous, but I do know spoken word artists that play guitar.
Right,
So
right. Well, as I said, I have students of mine that have made guitars. One of my students makes guitars for Sting now.
oh wow.
Yeah, and I feel very proud of that.
You should be very proud of that.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. Was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was one of Bruce Lee's students.
right.
So
Well, Sting, a lot of people know who Sting is, that.
yeah, absolutely. And so I guess what I'm saying is that if the teacher wasn't great, then the student wouldn't be able to accomplish much. So the
Well, I
accomplishments,
look at it slightly differently.
the
Any student who isn't better than his teacher is a result of a bad teacher.
yeah.
See what I mean?
So you're a great teacher.
You understand that? In other words, I see many of my students who are actually better at guitar making than I am. And that's because they started from what I know now. They started and took that somewhere else beyond.
From what you taught them.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? So
See, I started from nothing. I started from knowing nothing. They started from what I, a lifetime of what I learned.
yeah.
So, I mean, if they don't end up better than me, then they're pretty dumb, you know. Yeah.
So I mean, so you and I think I personally I think you're a great teacher. I mean, I've took one of your classes. I've learned some things from you.
You
And
made a working, authentic musical instrument that I mean, if you dedicated yourself, you could play Bach or Beethoven on it if you want.
well, my my goal is to really start focusing this fall. After I pass my certifications, it's going to be my thing to do when I sit down and relax. To strum on the T play and the bass. So before we end, and I went a little bit longer because we started late.
Well, it looks like your audience hasn't left, so we must have
What
been interested.
and I'm gonna give them. Matter of fact, I'm gonna shut up, and I'm gonna allow them to ask you questions, one question each. French, are you there?
I
You're on
think
mute. You're on mute. Sean, you there? Oh no,
I am here.
Would you like to ask a question?
Well, I just find it fascinating. I just want to maybe just more so make a comment. I find it fascinating, that you're so dedicated to doing this. And yeah, I think it's beautiful. Uh, I would love to someday take a workshop with you, or yeah, I would love to build my own instrument. So thank you for doing this.
Well,
I'm
actually,
just
I'm planning a little T-play workshop out of my, I did that last year. That's how Maurice got to it. I invited a few friends that I just wanted to be with for a week. I said, who would I enjoy the company of for a couple of weeks? And I just chose a few friends from the area, and it was such a gas that I've been wanting to do that again.
well, if it happens, somehow I need to be a part of that.
Well,
So,
I'll just keep in touch with Maurice, and I'll keep in touch with Maurice, and I'll tell him what's happening.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you again for what you're doing.
Terry, you there? Terry Reynolds.
He's asleep. I put him asleep.
No, it's funny, when you're listening and we go off for a bit, the phone locks and we have to do all the stuff to get back to the mute button.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and that's something I don't really think about a lot, but thank you for reminding me of that. Jerry, you there? Sean, you're on deck.
Um, all right, William. Have you ever lost any interest during your journey as a guitar creator?
No. It's there's the universe that I'm in is so rich. It's always kept me, and when I got proficient in one fact segment of it, there was always another thing that I could, you know, learn that I went towards. Um, I guess the only slowing down is just because of the physical thing. At 76, I don't have the stamina that I used to have when I could get up 7:30 in the morning, be in my shop at 7:30 and leave at 9 at night. And now I just can't stand for that long. So that's the only slowing down, which is that, the mind is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I'm kind of on a semi-retired status now. I come into the shop at noon rather than at 7:30. And I just work, maybe 4 or 5 hours rather than the 10 or 12 hours that I used to. So, I'm slowing down. But as far as the whole experience, I was never bored. I mean, you just pick a field that's broad enough to keep you interested. That if you kind of master one part of it, there's always this other thing that you're curious about, and this other facet. Look at that. I imagine making a lute or an instrument like a lute, completely different string instrument, or how about an instrument from some far off land? I wonder what their culture is. So I'd learn the culture and I'd learn about the instrument from that culture. I've got. I mean, if I ever have the time, I have a database of all the information I've stored up about all the different kind of string instruments of Latin America. And the United States has a guitar and it has a banjo. Maybe it has three guitars. It has electric guitar, has acoustic guitar, and it has a classical guitar. So that's four instruments that are really native to this country. Well, Mexico has 14 or 15. Every region has 4 or 5 different instruments that are native to them. South America has dozens and dozens and dozens of native different kinds of completely different musical instruments and stringed instruments, and everyone is their own universe. So that's I've ended up, just finding other little niches to explore. So no, I never got bored. I never dropped off. I decided to study the instruments of my own land, my native land, Puerto Rico. So I went out and I learned about the cuatro, and then I did some research, and I found a bunch of other guys who had similar interests, and wrote my second book on the cuatro. So I kept myself interested all these years.
That book.
It's in Spanish though.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
I'm
very
actually working.
interesting.
Look at that. There's Yomo Toro. The Yomo Toro is the most famous cuatro player. I mean, everybody in pretty much Latin America knows Yomo Toro.
Okay. Wow,
Um,
look at that.
and that's a cuatro being made. So anyway, I am working among my 5,000 extracurricular activities. I'm working on an English language version.
I just wanted to say one thing that um that's probably going to irritate you, and I apologize in advance, but legends work with legends. Just wanted to mention that.
I have in my own mind of what a legend is, and I don't reach, I don't even touch their
Well,
shoe.
I mean, well, that's a good thing that you don't get to choose who the legends are. So,
I can't even
I,
check to their shoelaces.
I mean, you do get to choose who the legends are. You get to choose, but I'm choosing, for me, you're a legend for me, and
Uh, I
so many people. I'm gonna share this with the people that are on right now and the people that are listening. Um, One of the most amazing performances that I've been a part of was actually in Williams' living room. Um, and do you remember the different?
yeah, the different
Yeah,
musicians. We had like a bunch of really really good musicians there, and
yeah,
and and you brought your sound system.
yeah. And I was able to do some
All
spoken.
these There was Joe Belmont, who was probably the best guitarist in this whole region here. There was Cacho Montalvo, who's probably the greatest Puerto Rican guitarist of modern times. And who else was there? There were just bunch of other people.
Oh, there was this guy, man. There's this one of the greatest luthiers, guitar makers in the area. William Pupiano was there.
Gosh, get out of here. Get out of here. All right. All right. Well,
But it was great to me. It was a really great time. But so there, I saw so many people that was able to benefit from your success over the years. You know, and how many lives that you've touched, you and your wife, and you know, I just want to thank you because you know, you truly are one of the people that we don't get to see often, who help people from all different walks of life. You know, who you know touches people's lives with unconditional love. You know, and so I wish I can honor you some way, but this is gonna have to suffice for now. You know, for people like you, I do wanna, I wanna, I've been wanting to create this thing. I did it once in honor of Dan Ski, called Essence Awards. Um, and it's going to be my mission within the next year to honor you with an Essence Awards, you know, a Lifetime Achievement Award, you know, for all the things that you've done, the lives that you've touched, you know, and the change that you've helped create, you know, with your unconditional love, you know, and action through culture, you know. And so I want to say thank you, you know, on behalf of all those whose lives is too totally messed up, but was changed because someone loved someone, and that love continued to keep being passed along, and we benefit from that love. So I want to thank you. You know, I honor you, and you know, thank you for being on the show tonight. You know, I look forward to having you again. And
anytime, Maurice, anytime.
Terry, are you there? Jerry, are you there? All right, I was gonna see if they had a question, but so
Okay.
with that being said, what we generally do is we ask our interviewee to give us a topic to write about, and I'll play some music and we'll write a poem, and we share that poetry. So give us the topic, William.
Oh, could I ask one more question though before? I didn't want to I didn't want to jump the gun if other people had questions, but I had another question or comment.
Sure.
Could I ask it before we go to that?
Okay. I'm going to have to ask to leave
Oh,
after that question because
hello?
Jeanette's holding up
Oh
supper
no.
for us.
Okay.
Uh,
But
sorry,
ask away.
phone cut out. Okay, oh great. Okay, thank you.
Ask,
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw something. I just put something in the chat.
oh, I just found the
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So this person who, I just linked in the chat, this woman was really fascinated in trying to rediscover what ancient Babylonian music would sound like. And she worked with someone who rebuilt an instrument based on like the specifications of what they had read historically to create an instrument that would have been played then. Anyway, something about what you were saying when you were answering Sean's question. You said something to the effect of, like what other instruments of what other cultures would I want to learn how to build or learn about? And it made me think of this story that I'd read back in 2014. And so the reason why I thought of it though was I, I wonder if you feel that there is some kind of I'm sorry if this comes across as very woo-woo spiritual, but is there some kind of channeling that happens when you're building these instruments from, a culture that, goes back beyond your existence? Is there some kind of communication with ancestors when you're building these instruments that you feel a connection to? You said, you've written this book and kind of like knowing the instruments of your homeland, your Puerto Rico. So is there this deeper communion happening for you as you're building these
I, I
instruments?
I definitely feel like I'm a part of a continuum. I really think that I'm carrying into the future something that started 1,000 years ago. That I'm in that same train, um, very very consciously, and that it's a great privilege, to be there. The development of the historic development of the instrument, and by connection, the music that the instrument plays, and that it's a continuum. It's a thread that goes all the way back from the Egyptian pyramids. You can find a guitar like, time of the Hittites. The time of the ancient Egyptians. There's this guitar-like object and it was built. I mean, there's a guitar-like object. It's not a guitar, but it's made with a hollow box in the neck and strings across it in the Egyptian pyramids. And so there's a line there. No, that's the spiritual connection, if any, that I acknowledge, just being in that train.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
I have so many more questions.
Okay, well, hey, tell Maurice to bring me on again.
Tapping
Yes,
Maurice to find out.
I
My
absolutely.
heard my wife. My wife is calling me to come to dinner.
Please send Jeanette my love,
Okay,
and thank you.
be good.
Thank you so much.
Take care. It was a real privilege to be here with you folks.
It was a privilege having you.
Be good.
Thank you.
Wow, that was yeah. So before we get to writing, I'd like to know what you all thought about the interview. French, you can go first.
Oh, I took up so much time. We didn't even get the topic. I feel so bad. I hope you all aren't mad that I sucked up that time that we had to ask him what to write about. But I thought it was amazing, and I'm glad this is recorded so I can go and listen back again. Um, yeah, I'm just always fascinated by people like William, who, like he just said, he sees himself as part of a continuum. How we carry forth, things of cultural significance. There's something very, I don't know, to me, powerful about, building the instrument of your people, of your culture. Um, yeah, and carrying that wisdom forth, like building the instrument that you're actually going to play. I don't know.
Yeah,
I love that. So anyway,
it's an amazing feeling. It really is.
I'm sure.
So I will when he does another class, I'll make sure you get the information so you can join the club, be in on a class.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sean, what was your take on the interview?
I thought it was great. I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was very interesting. And just to hear that there was, or there is, uh, multiple different types of guitars in the Spanish, different Spanish countries and stuff like that. Very interesting to find that out. Not just, anything based on the electrical or, classic guitar, or something like that. So I thought it was really interesting. His book looked really interesting too. With the dates and times and the black and white and stuff like that. I would, even if it's in Spanish, I would probably like to, buy it just for the history and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. And also it's a good way to learn Spanish too.
Yeah, there we go. So,
um, Jerry, you there? You're on mute if you're speaking. Terry, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What was your take on the? Oh, give me 1 second, Terry. Sean, what will you be? What do you take away from the interview?
let's see. I guess my takeaway, from the interview was how dedicated and how dedicated and motivated he is without losing any of his dedication or motivation throughout the I don't know how long he's been doing this, but it seems like a very long time. But that was something that I took away.
I think during the interview he said about 50 years he's been making instruments.
Oh wow, okay, 50
Yeah.
years. That is a long time still. So wow.
Terry?
Yes, I thought that the interview was just absolutely fascinating. Um, and it amazed me so much how dedicated he was to making the instruments. Um, I also caught how important it is for us to maintain our history, who we are. It reminded me of uh, a situation earlier today where I had the opportunity to speak to someone at a Greek restaurant about how how their how they made their food, how they prepared their pastries and different things like that, how that was handed down from generation to generation. And um, we begin to talk about food and who made the food, who made the pastries and stuff like that. And this brought this particular interview brought that back to me. How important it is for us to maintain our culture and to continue to maintain um, those things that are important. And with him, I thought, I don't know what to say. That was amazing to me. The entire interview was amazing. It was packed full of information, and
I'm
I
glad
thought,
you enjoyed it. What will you be taking away
yes,
from the interview?
do not allow anything to take away who you are, what you believe in, um, to take away where you come from. Always keep that, always, because it's a source of identity. It's we don't ever want to lose our identity.
Word, word. Jerry, you there? Thank you, Terry. All right. I think Jerry fell asleep on us tonight. He's getting a little up there in age, but we still love him. He's always welcome. And when he wakes up, we'll be here. So one thing I talked about when I spoke to William about before, about what the topic that he would give us. So William is bi-ethnic. He's Jewish and he's Puerto Rican, and so, which was one of the interesting thing about hearing him speak about the Palestinian and Jewish issue that's going on. And I love listening to him is because he comes from it from a place of love and real interest, and how to like what caused this, and in order to address any conflict, you have to know the history of it and stuff like that. So it was really amazing to listen to him speak about that. So his topic would have been being mixed culture, um, around mixed culture. And so I don't know if any of you, so what I want to encourage us to do is talk about mixed culture and to think about the different people in your past that have come together in your family tree. to that mixed and ended up in who we are today. And so, you know, being conscious of the different ethnic backgrounds and the different cultures that's within us, you know, and so I would like to encourage us to write about that. Is that clear to everybody?
Actually, we're writing about how all the different cultures that have mixed form who we are, or
Yes, pretty much, yeah. Sean, you good? Terry? Jerry?
Yes, we're good. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, there you do it.
A 22-year-old man was shot in the head in the city's 10th floor Not enough. I have a city's tent. A city's tent motor. City's tent motor. A city's tent motor. A city's tent motor. A city's tent. A city's tent. If sometime my smile is moistened by tears, when I see the great pain that spreads over the world, I shall still be smiling with tears in my eyes, smiling to life, smiling to death.
How you guys doing? Hello? French, Sean, Terry, Jerry?
You know, I have to do the things to unlock the phone to speak, so it takes me a second. But I was I'm still writing. Is that, can we have like a couple more minutes or?
I
I'm
will
good
give
with
you.
Maurice over here.
What'd you say, Sean?
I'm good over here. Whenever you're ready, I'll probably one of the first ones if anybody isn't ready or whatever.
How many minutes you asking for, French?
Got distracted because the news alert came on my phone about what's happening in Israel, and I read that story, and then I started writing. So I need another minute.
I'm gonna give you a
I hear
minute.
that.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna take a break, you guys. I'm putting another song. I'll be right back. The song that you guys heard was from Tim Blessed, Wipe the Tears, Re-Energize. This track right here is for one of my favorite MCs in our area, T Swan. T Swan.
What's your purpose? You want to get all you first. What's your priorities? I mean, it's first. I know. It's like you were born for you. To the day that I find that I'm raising the bar, my leg on the ground. Facing me, want to be famous and all. Look at these flames seem to run out. Makes me the one for the so many years. I hold the same dream. This run, not with the same scheme. I'm on day one. Stay right this first bit. This will replace everything you've been missing. Now listen, I'm in the world where my values are already licensed since the to add a blessing to some blessing that I'm sitting here. I'm my shit, I gotta have shit. I'm myself if you listen, you can tell I'm still at I'm listening. I'm what's the black arrow without an arrow? You got it, I'm perfect, but I hope you see what I'm pushing for. And I hope you looking towards the future. Me, you got it, this how for you. I will take what's that reside in here. I see motivation. I gotta go and get it. I ain't sitting right away and shit trees with some shit. Tell me how you gonna get it. Tell me some motivation. Shit ambition. And if some give us yeah, okay, right now it's time. Keep it. She gotta have that motivation. 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 Be great. And I knew this from the start. That these cameras, they got no on me. They got what's back when I was respect. To me, that's my most success. Who's up next? Oh, that's me. So happy. When I know that it's mine. Waiting on me, so one day you just think that's my time. Sitting on the back, this thing on the back. Now this. I'm doing good at what we said that should be because I'm on the shit without it. We can't give up. It's up of fun that I'm so concerned about. To the riches, but as far as it's me, it's up. I think what I love it when they underestimate me. That's the you I aspire to this right. I feel it's to be and never settle for less. You gotta go get to me. It's your right ground. You rock the house, you better run it all the way. Yeah, I see motivation. Yeah, get it. I ain't sitting around waiting for shit breeze with some chance. Tell me how you gonna get it. Tell me that's your motivation. Yeah, shit ambition. Yeah, leave out trying to get what's mine. I'm the only right now. Take my time. Keep it. She gotta have that motivation. 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 This goes out to the boy with the dreams. What's the dream? If you don't see, gotta have that motivation. Yeah, this goes out to that girl with aspirations. What's the dream? If you don't see, gotta have that motivation. This goes out to the boy with the dreams. What's the dream? If you see, gotta have that motivation. Yeah, you gotta have that motivation. Yeah.
Did Jerry pop on? I know Jerry didn't come on to say anything. French?
Right? Yep, I'm here.
You ready?
I guess so. I just finished the last word. I haven't even read it back to myself yet.
No, we're about to
Uh,
hear it.
so I guess I'll just read it. I have no idea. Like I said, I just kind of like wrote this, so I don't know even what it sounds like. The road ahead is a winding path that flows from me. Its origins a lineage of ancestors who speak to me. All of them the nadir, the gravity. All of them the engine which propels me, compels me. And which ancestors rise up in dominance, in a cultural crescendo of prominence within me, to control the ship, steering my destiny. Who do I integrate or deny? Is there a war within me? Or am I the beautiful communion, the alchemy of two ancestors who might have been enemies? Uh, that's where I've left.
Would you want to read that
Are you
again?
sure? Okay. Did it break up or something?
No, no, no. Just sometimes,
Oh, okay. Yep. I'll say that I was just inspired by reading the news report that flashed in my phone right before writing this about what's happening in Israel between Jews and Palestinians. And it just made me think, and it kind of recontextualized the whole previous conversation um, in that framework. These people that are living in the same region, maybe some of them intermingled, and what would uh, their descendants feel like um, in the future? How would they express the uh, epigenetics of the past? I don't know. So that's kind of what came to mind and influenced this, I think. So I'll read it again. The road ahead is a winding path that flows from me. Its origins, a lineage of ancestors who speak to me. All of them the nadir, the gravity. All of them the engine which propels me, compels me. And which ancestors rise up in dominance, in a cultural crescendo of prominence within me, to control the ship steering my destiny? Who do I integrate or deny? Is there a war within me? Am I the beautiful communion, the alchemy of two ancestors who might have been enemies? It's not finished, I don't think, but that's what I got.
well, I want to hear it when it's finished.
Okay, cool.
I want to hear it when it's finished. And I also want to extend to you an invitation for an interview when you're done with your project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I would love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Terry, you there?
Yes, I'm here. That was beautiful, Frankie. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
I like that. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a poet per se, but I try to come close. Um, but that was absolutely beautiful. So
Thank
with
you. And I'm sure you
mine,
are a poet. Thank you.
with mines, I'm kind of coming a little bit different. Because for me, it's a real life. This is a real life experience for me. So I'll say it like this. I remember my dad. I remember my uncle. I remember my mom, and I remember his wife. My dad's brother married into Puerto Rican culture. So I know of the parties, the nightly romps. I know about the music. I know about the quinceañeras. I know about the food. I remember everything so clear, as if it had set the mood from memories of old, the times that my parents had, all rooted in culture. The memories I will have will never go away. And that's what I came.
Thank you
Thank you.
for sharing that. I'm gonna give Jerry. Jerry, you there?
Jerry.
Terry or Jerry?
Well, I was saying Jerry, but now that Jerry's not stepping up, can I just comment a little bit more to Terry? Is that allowed or
No,
is
you can,
okay?
because it's just a few of us, and then I'm gonna read my piece.
Okay. Yeah, no, Terry, I was just really feeling your connection to those memories of those people in your life and yeah, how much it lives in your voice as you were talking about them, how I could see them so clearly in the way you're describing them. Like it's a connection through the connection that you feel to them, which is apparent in your voice. I can see them very clearly in my mind, even without you describing them in detail.
Yes. Thank you.
Wow, it's
Yeah, and
interesting to hear.
I do. I miss my auntie. I really do. I miss my auntie a lot. When I tell you, she came from Puerto Rico, straight from Puerto Rico. So she had the accent, she had the hair, she had every, all of it. And
Your
my
Titi?
cousins, I had 5 cousins, um, half black, half Spanish, and I fell in love with the culture. Now, when they party, they party. You understand what I'm saying? That's a part of their culture. The music is so much a part of their culture, and I became fascinated with it. Even now and again, I'll speak Spanish. I've had jobs where I just, dibbled and dabbled. I never was fluent, but I could always, understand and communicate. And that's always been a part of me. And I miss that. I miss that.
Again,
All right. Thank you, Terry. Terry, now did you say you was did am I making this up? So the Puerto Rican, were you married into the Puerto Rican family?
I
Into the
wasn't.
culture?
My father's brother
Was.
married his wife, who
Okay.
was from Puerto Rico.
Okay. All right. I
Mhm.
know I missed something. Okay.
Yes.
And now I started thinking about all the Puerto Rican food I can't eat no more.
Oh, no.
kind of pissed me off there, young lady. This piece it's called Within Me. It's kind of different because I grew up in foster care and I didn't really know my parents to really know my history. So I wrote this from what I know. My mom was born on a plantation. I grew in foster care, divided from my past. I created a ship of happenstance opportunities to sell back to the bosom that nourished me before I was ripped away by a system manipulated by a man who wanted no responsibility, sought to inflict emotional pain in the life of a woman incredibly hurt, but sought to fight while my knowledge of my family is limited. I got a peek in the strength of a woman that created me and the weakness of a man that left me. I don't know the ancestors that dwell within me. I do my best to connect to the soldiers that fought for opportunities to rise. So I write of the pain and the passions through the pain so others can see me on the other side. And the times I'm buried in regret, using each item of gratitude as a rung to climb up and be seen, not by the world, but by me, by those that need to see themselves make it. A culture struggle, a culture success, a culture self-defeat, and me choosing to create a culture of healing. I will pass all that along with a list of songs within me. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that you lingered on the last, that last line. Pass it along. Songs within you. Thank you for doing that, because you do that.
You're welcome. You're very
That
welcome.
was good. I like that, Maurice.
And I'm back, Maurice. My bad. I just had some technical difficulties.
Sean Bailey's back. He's back. He's back. Thank you, Terry. I'm glad I was able to share this evening with you all. It means a lot.
I am too.
I'm I don't know who I'll have next Friday. French, you missed a great interview last Friday. It was
Who was last Friday?
I had my Savior Greer, who's the manager of the comics, some of the comics in the Bad Boys of Comedy 2, and Conan O'Brien. That was really good. That was good.
What made that so great? I mean, like, I'm not like he sounds great, but I'm just saying, what to you specifically made it great for you?
Comedy, a great comedian has a way of taking a serious situation and making us laugh about them, the darkest of situations, and
Absolutely.
to be able to bring someone of that stature, who work with people on that level, who injects those moments into society to make it lighter, and to be able to have him on my show, it was just awesome in and of itself. So and to be able to get other people who was on the show at that time to be able to ask him questions and connect. Oh no, that was the week before. Last week was Sherry Honkala, who's an international activist. Was amazing. Oh, that was amazing too. Oh man.
I mean, you have, today, William, honestly, like, I don't, like, I just happened to, I stopped working and I just happened to open my email and, like, your email had literally just come through. And so I saw it. Like, typically I don't always catch your emails. So I
Which
saw
is
this
good because
email.
I actually just sent that email.
That's what I'm saying. Like that. So my point that I'm about to make is that I was meant to be here tonight,
Yes.
and more so because of another project that I'm working on, which I could tell you about another time. But I love how my life works, how I'm led to be exactly where I'm meant to be at exactly the right time. And tonight I was meant to be here to hear William's story and to write about what we just wrote about because it's very connected to the next project that I'm working on. So it's just the synchronicities are amazing.
And
But anyway,
it's also a testament, to the impact that this show has on people's lives. So
absolutely. What you're doing is great, and I hope you continue to do it. And I mean, I know it's a lot of work for you. I know it is, and I know you do so
okay.
much, and I know you've got so much just going on, just personally, and the fact that, like William, you are so dedicated to this. This is a beautiful dedication of your life, what you're giving to people through this show that you hold space regularly for every week, same time. It's really a testament of your dedication and persistence and love for your community. So,
And I'm hoping it's laid back enough for people to not feel, afraid, to not feel like this is elitist, but also important enough where they need to be here, and so help spread the word, help spread the
Oh,
word.
excuse me,
Oh,
everyone. I am back. I'm sorry. I apologize. I had to take a phone call.
oh wait. So
Yeah, I apologize.
you just gonna interrupt me, bro? To say
Well,
you're
you're getting
sorry?
ready to sign off. You're getting ready to sign off, right?
You don't know what I'm
I
about
had
to
to
ready to
call.
do?
It felt like now or never, There was a sense of urgency.
I guess it's now. Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, and so so this is, I usually title my stuff. I don't have a title for this, but here goes. It's very short. The greatest story, excuse me, the greatest story ever told, once again unfolds before the eyes of the world. It's not just a chapter in a book written long ago. We are here. I mean, it's here and now. And we are the chosen ones, the designated mourners. And that's all I've got.
thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it. And
You're welcome. I thank everyone who's come before me here on this show and in life and in general. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to be a part of this Friday evening experience.
and I thank you. And I want to encourage you all to invite other people. Invite them in. I'm graduating this show from an open mic to a cultural exchange. Hello?
Good. Excellent.
So
Great.
I want to see it go up, you know what I'm saying? And continue to progress. You have done a lot. You've done a lot, Maurice. And we appreciate all that you have done. You've brought to light a lot of people with amazing talents and amazing abilities and goals and things, just, keeping us abreast of what's going on out here. And we really appreciate it. So we're looking to move onward and upward,
it shows us that we
better
can.
things.
It shows us that we can make it. We can do it. It's hard, but we can do it. And especially if we work together. And with that,
Absolutely.
I want to thank all of you for being here. Jerry, thank you for always helping create moments of laughter.
Yeah, well, it's it's always an enlightening experience, and yeah, as French was saying, yeah, you've got a track record of being able to put together some amazing folks to come and sit with us and share some of what they do, share some of their perspectives on whatever the topic is of the week. And so it's so it's interesting, to hear you frame it in terms of graduating it from an open mic to a cultural exchange, and and so the evolution continues,
Absolutely.
And I say kudos to you, and especially for putting this little piece of the planet on the radar,
And don't get me wrong, there will always be a Poetic Recovery open mic, but we are growing into a cultural exchange. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
We have people in Tanzania that want to hear our voices. So y'all got to work on some work, get some stuff together so we can make it happen. All right, I'm out. Have a good night. Be well.
You too. Rest well.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone, and thank you again, Maurice.
Night.
You're
And
welcome.
please connect me with William.
I will.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you. All right, bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good
Good night,
night.
Sean.
Good night, bro.
Good night. Oh, Jared.
Yeah.
I want to get you to perform for our Father's Day event, and you too, Terry.
Okay.
All right, that's like the 19th. That's something of next month, right?
Yeah, it's like the Friday before Father's Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be an honor.
No, the Juneteenth.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question before we go?
No, that's the 18th. That's the 18th, but Juneteenth. Okay, so here's the deal. I can't see not doing Poetic Recovery on a Friday night, but I also cannot see not doing Juneteenth. Do we want to suck it up and do both?
Is that like a Friday, Saturday?
Yeah.
So what, 17th, 18th, or 18th, 19th?
17, 18, 18, 19.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
What about you, Jerry?
That works. That works for me.
All right. So
okay, now what am I supposed to be doing again?
performing for Juneteenth. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty.
That's what you want me to do?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So for that day, for Juneteenth, then okay. All right. And
Last year I had what was it? Wow. Huh. No, I
Hey,
had
Maurice, can I ask?
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I ask you a question, man, related to the interview that you did tonight, and also related to a open mic event that you did in Holyoke years back that I attended.
No.
So there was this musician
No,
that was
dude,
there.
dude, you asked me if you could ask a question. I said no. But you still gonna go ask a question. Go ahead, Jerry. Because you just gonna go
Yeah,
ahead, Jerry.
so there was this musician there, and he had made this instrument. I'm going to call it a guitar, but I don't know if that's the right word. But it was made out of a Spam can.
Yes.
Do you know what
Yes.
was the name of that instrument? And
That was it. That was a T play. And
okay, that's what I thought. But when I looked it up, it didn't look. It looked the play looked more like a guitar. But that
yeah,
instrument.
that's true.
Okay.
However, remember that when people don't have a lot of money, they use what they can use. They use what they can get. And William helped him make that T play.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. I never forget that, man. I'll
Yeah.
never forget that, man. On Main Street in Holyoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right then. It's been real, and I will hopefully we'll hang out again next week.
Likewise, man. I'll do my best to be here. You guys have a good night.
Good night. Good night,
night.
Maurice.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry, for being here.
You're welcome. Anytime. Blessings. Get some rest.
I will. You too. For all those that tuned in, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on our website, whether you're on Facebook, or whether you're on the radio station, we want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Poetic Recovery. We will continue to have a Poetic Recovery open mic, which will be once a month, and it will be on a particular day. I will let you all know. But henceforth, we will be known as Poetic Recovery Cultural Exchange. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. We had on William Cupiano, guitar maker, who's very good at what he does. Excellent. A legend within his own right. And tonight we also had a discussion on the issues in the Middle East between Palestine and Israel, and the responsibility, those of us who live in the United States of America, to impress upon our elected officials to put a halt to this, to the occupation of Palestine. And each person came to it with their own ideas, their own views, their own information, to have an exchange of information. And we have these conversations so that we can bounce things off each other, so that we know that we're not alone, and we can become better people, create a better society. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Poetic Recovery. It's your boy, Maurice Soul Fighter Taylor. Hope you all have a good evening. Have a good rest. Peace.
All right.